we all have a certain amount of history in the way we dig, because we dig. Like, and we gonna spend as much time as you want talking about. We went into New York. We flew. Me and Ray to fly to New York. Like when we got big royalty checks or something. And so instead of going to the mall, instead of going to buy all the new designer stuff, we'll go to New York, get hotel rooms, eat Ray's pizza, and go to all the Jewish little stores and buy up everybody else. We got some what he said that day. I got some not Pete Rock. What name he said?
He said
Q-Tip. But it was more than Q-Tip. Whoever he said, I was holding these Q-Tips.
And main source.
It was Ali.
Large Professor.
See, you would go to record conventions.
Well, we found them. See, but our discovery of New York as a source was only because we had like pilfered Atlanta and the South. Because everybody got a record collection.
I was about to say the best records I ever found were below the Mason-Dixon line.
Absolutely. Yep. But when we first started, I'm talking about 45s. I'm talking about Carmine and Bleak. I'm talking about this dude. He went in the back. He already identified where the breaks came in at. He had already, because all he does was, old man sitting around, he said, those are spots he would hit it. He'd be like, yeah. So he didn't know what kind of money we had. He's like, yeah, I charge like 40 or 50 for these. I was like, cool. How many you got? We go there. We dropping bags, thousands of dollars, and each time we got a break, we like, that's an original. One thing about hip hop, originality is the most important thing because it inspires and motivates.
Don't bite nobody's shit.
Yeah. So if you come up with something, even if you didn't do it the best, you just presented it to the world. So somebody else is gonna rip it another day. Or whatever, but right in these first little 18 months, they can't come behind you with it. It's got to be your lane only right now. So as many breaks as we had, it was up to just making records that coincided or whatever.
Right.
But that was our lifeline. Once we made it into the music industry, we felt like as long as we were digging, we were reading books and we were learning. And that's what New York had forgot for a little while. They got caught up into the
fucking real.
They done out, and that's why the South got in there. Because we didn't, it looked like they let us in with Master P and Cash Money. It was like that's because they fucked up and didn't fuck with us early on.
Yeah.
But when we had a brother. That's why it's called the East Coast, because Atlanta's on the East Coast. Yeah. It's DC's on the East Coast. It's like all these places are reminiscent of hip hop, even though we give all the credit to Bronx, give all the credit to New York, Brooklyn, because it's deservingly so. Like we always looked at New York as the father and Los Angeles as the mother, and we were the child that came from it. That's why he said from neglect. That's where Atlanta came from. The fact that neglect was enough to try to figure it out on your own.
Now coming up in the South, like I tell people all the time, like we had to study everything.
Yes.
So it's like it wasn't just if you came up in New York, you might have knew what was going on if you lived in Brooklyn, or you might have knew who the hot dude was over here. But in the South, we had to know everything. You had to know, all right, this is New York, this is the Midwest, this is Texas, this is Houston. Like, you know what I mean? And it always made for me, it just gave me a greater vocabulary. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And, you know what I mean? Just of knowing everything, because you had to know